If your blood sugar keeps rising, even when you're doing everything right, there's something nobody ever explained to you. It's not just what you eat. It's the speed at which sugar enters your blood. And there's a single seed, smaller than a grain of rice, that can literally slow down that process inside your body. And the strangest part? Almost nobody talks about this. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm going to show you today can completely change the way you understand glucose. I am a doctor, and after years of following patients with insulin resistance, I noticed a pattern that deeply unsettled me. People go on diets, they cut carbohydrates, they take prescription medication, they wake up early to exercise, they read every label at the supermarket, they sacrifice their favorite foods at dinner, and even after all of that, they get worse. Their tests come back altered. Glucose stays high, energy crashes in the afternoon, brain fog sets in by midday, and the frustration compounds into something that feels almost like defeat. I watched this happen over and over again in my practice, and for a long time, I was also looking for the answer in the wrong place, until I understood that the problem isn't just the food entering through your mouth, it's how your body absorbs that food. It's about absorption. It's about what happens in the 30 minutes after you swallow your meal. And when I started paying attention to that specific window, everything changed, both in my clinical practice and in the lives of my patients. There is a seed, small, inexpensive, used for thousands of years by peoples who couldn't even explain the science behind it, that when it comes into contact with water, does something fascinating inside your body. It expands, it swells, it transforms. It forms a thick, dense gel inside your intestine, a viscous, almost sticky coating that lines the intestinal wall and creates a kind of natural barrier between the food you just ate and your bloodstream. And that barrier makes sugar enter your blood much more slowly. It acts like a speed bump on a highway that was previously wide open. But before I tell you which seed this is, I need you to understand why this works. Because if you don't understand the mechanism, you'll treat this like just another random tip from the internet. And it is far more than that. This is physiology. This is biology working in your favor. Most people arrive at my office believing that sugar itself is the villain. Doctor, I stopped eating sweets. And I respond, that helps, but it is not enough. Not even close. The real problem is not the sugar you eat in isolation. It is the glucose spike that happens when that sugar enters the bloodstream too fast, too abruptly, without any resistance. When this happens suddenly and repeatedly, day after day, meal after meal, the pancreas becomes overloaded. It releases wave after wave of insulin trying to compensate, and eventually the cells start ignoring that insulin signal. They stop listening. They become resistant. That is insulin resistance. And from that point forward, inflammation installs itself silently in your tissues, your arteries, your organs. Type 2 diabetes consolidates itself not in a single dramatic moment, but through thousands of small spikes that nobody tracked, nobody slowed down, nobody interrupted. Breaking this belief that simply cutting sweets solves the problem is the first and most important step for a patient to truly evolve. Because the enemy is not just sugar. The enemy is speed. That seed is the chia seed. As simple as that sounds, but what it does inside your body is anything but simple. And it is precisely because it sounds too simple that most people dismiss it. We are conditioned to believe that powerful solutions must be expensive, complicated, or hard to find. We trust a pill in a pharmacy more than a seed in a jar. We follow a prescription written on official paper more than a plant that has been used for over 3,000 years. And that conditioning costs people their health every single day. When you consume chia with liquid, it absorbs up to 12 times its own weight in water and forms a gel called mucilage. Now, picture that gel coating the inside of your intestinal wall before your meal arrives. Picture the sugar from your food trying to cross that barrier, as if it were moving through thick mud instead of an open road. It still crosses, but much, much more slowly. That reduction in absorption speed means your pancreas has more time to respond proportionally. Insulin is released gradually instead of in a sudden flood. The glucose spike, that sharp, aggressive rise that causes so much damage, is significantly blunted, and when that spike is reduced consistently, day after day, the cumulative effect on your metabolic health is profound. Your cells begin to recover their sensitivity to insulin. Inflammation markers drop. Energy becomes more stable throughout the day because your blood sugar isn't crashing after every meal. This is basic physiology applied with elegant simplicity. And the best part, no side effects, no prescription required, no expensive monthly subscription. Now tell me in the comments, do you already use chia? Write, I use chia, or I don't use. I want to understand how far this knowledge is actually reaching the people who need it most. And take a moment right now to subscribe to the channel, because every week I bring content exactly like this. Science-based, no filler, no false promises, no shortcuts that don't exist. Beyond blood sugar control, chia offers a set of benefits that stack together in a way that is particularly powerful for anyone dealing with insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes. It actively reduces inflammatory markers in the body, and chronic low-grade inflammation is one of the silent engines that drives diabetes progression, cardiovascular disease, and metabolic dysfunction. People don't feel inflammation. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't announce itself. But it silently damages blood vessels, disrupts hormonal signaling, and accelerates cellular aging. Chia interrupts that process through its omega-3 content, specifically ALA, which the body uses to produce anti-inflammatory compounds. It dramatically improves satiety, the feeling of fullness, which means you naturally eat less at your next meal without forcing willpower or fighting cravings. You simply aren't as hungry, and when you aren't as hungry, you make better choices. It contributes to overall metabolic health, including improvements in cholesterol profile and blood pressure, two factors that are almost always compromised in people with elevated blood sugar. It supports gut health through its prebiotic fiber content, feeding beneficial bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, compounds that themselves improve insulin sensitivity. All of this from something you can find in any supermarket for just a few dollars a bag. There is no expensive supplement on the market that delivers this breadth of benefit at this price point. But here is the mistake that most people make, and it completely cancels the benefit. The first mistake is consuming chia dry. Sprinkling it on yogurt without hydrating it first, swallowing it straight, mixing it into a smoothie at the last second. None of that forms the gel. Without the gel, there is no barrier. The chia passes through your digestive system largely unchanged, contributing almost nothing to glucose control. You are essentially just eating tiny seeds. The second mistake is mixing it with something sweet. I have seen patients prepare chia water with fruit juice, or mix it into a smoothie loaded with banana, honey, and oat milk, and then wonder why their glucose didn't improve. You are using the seed to slow down sugar absorption while simultaneously adding a significant sugar load to the same preparation. The mechanisms cancel each other out. The third mistake, and perhaps the most common, is inconsistency. Using it for 2 days, seeing no dramatic result, stopping, starting again a week later after reading another article, then forgetting for a month. The body does not respond to sporadic interventions. It responds to consistent, daily habits layered over time. Without that consistency, you are just creating the psychological comfort of feeling like you are doing something, without actually doing enough. The correct protocol is straightforward. 1 tablespoon of chia seeds, hydrated in a full glass of water for at least 10 minutes, consumed before your main meal. That anticipation is essential. The gel needs to already be present and coating your intestinal wall when the food arrives. If you take it after eating, the effect is dramatically reduced because the sugar absorption has already begun. 1 tablespoon with water. 10 minutes of hydration before your meal every single day. That is the protocol. That is what the research supports. And that is what I have seen make a genuine difference in the patients who actually follow it with consistency. This is not a miracle. This does not replace medical treatment. It does not suspend your medication. It does not resolve diabetes on its own. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you something. But within a comprehensive, medically guided approach to managing blood sugar, chia can be one of the most underutilized, most accessible, and most evidence-supported strategies available today. A single seed can change the way sugar enters your body, and that change, accumulated day after day, reflected in your lab results, in your energy levels, in your quality of life, in the number of medications you might eventually need, that change makes every difference in the world. If this content helped you, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Someone in your family. A friend who is struggling with their glucose. Someone who has been told their numbers are getting worse and doesn't know where to start. Share this with them, and tell me, would you start today?